Hello, everyone. This is Mr. Taylor. I hope you are all enjoying your October, even though it's almost over. I decided to put together a quick video in retrospect of reviewing your diagnostic writing packets. I've already met with the majority of you all, and we've discussed your experience with academic writing, your feedback, perhaps in undergrad. And by and large, the consensus is that many of you have never had the level of feedback or the specificity of feedback that you all are receiving via the diagnostic writing packets in IPE 520, as well as the level of discussion regarding your research interests in our research consultation sessions. I know it's a lot of information, it's a lot of documentation to take in, lots of edits to consume. And so I wanted to take a beat and discuss the academic tone and the style of your writing. As you all know, and as discussed in our research consultation sessions, the very first paper is more of a research analysis than it is a literature review. It's a much more simple cookie cutter format. I do this strategically so that you all have the opportunity to focus half on the improvement of your academic tone and style of writing, and then also to allow for getting your base level research ideas on paper. So your overall research domain and the ways that you're going to analyze your argument, your levels of analysis or threads as we call them. And so this very first research analysis is going to focus heavily not only on your research ideas, but the way you translate those ideas into the standard of academic writing at the graduate and professional level. With that being said, I thought it would be helpful to cover some of my tips, tricks, style models, and some prescriptive steps that not only I use myself and with other students, but I also use when I'm hired as an independent contractor to help other professionals publish their research content. So just another clarifying point, the final literature review is going to be much more dynamic, multifaceted, and extensive than what you're submitting for the critical analysis. The idea is that we will take your same sources, content, primary ideas or levels of analysis, and we will extrapolate upon that, add to it. You'll add additional sources, and then you will start organizing all of your different subsections and different seriation levels, which means subsections and possible subsections inside subsections and etc. You get the idea. But I want you all to focus heavily on the writing piece. In my experience in this class, it's really helped students to focus in a very simple format in terms of your research ideas first, so that you can really grasp the ideas, the models for academic research writing improvement, and some of the tips and tricks I'll show you in this video. Just know that what you're submitting now, for the critical analysis, while simple, is only a starting point for a literature review. So it's going to be incumbent upon all of you all to continue engaging and researching, pulling your own sources, connecting with your support services, including myself, but also the Writing Center and the reference librarians. And I'm pleased to report many of you have already done that. So that's great. But know that I'm always here as a resource if you need me. Furthermore, I never turn away the opportunity to review someone's work prior to officially submitting. So know that the invite is always open for you to submit something to me. As long as you give me enough time ahead of the official due date to review and get the content back to you, you're welcome to submit to me. Thus, let's segue here. A quick agenda I put together that is tentative and may change as I record this video. Number one, we're going to discuss the formula for improving the academic tone of your writing, and we will discuss exactly what academic tone means. But this is a surefire way to make sure that any excerpt of your writing is at the standard required, and it's a simple 3-step method for improving that academic tone to that standard. Then we will discuss the IPE 520 list of prohibited items and important elements. I'll go through this bulleted list with you all so you understand what is important to keep it top of mind as you're drafting the content for the critical analysis, and things to absolutely avoid, non-negotiables in other words. Then we will discuss some of the common themes and writing nuances that I'm seeing in all of your writing collectively as a class, so that you have an idea of some things that are similar and different with your own writing style. You can compare and contrast some of those items. Then I'll discuss a formula for presenting data and research. And there might be a few other items that I add to this depending on time and depending on whether or not I decide to add another video or to make this a series of videos. All right, so let's start with the formula for improving academic tone. This is my own personal formula, but I invite every single one of you to use it. It's simple. It's a prescriptive 3-step process you can apply to any excerpt of your own writing. I've seen great success with it personally myself, hence the development of the formula. I've also seen many of my students completely rehaul the style and academic tone of their writing by using this 3-step method. I've also seen professional researchers hone in on their own writing style and find ways to improve it through this formula. So first of all, let's define what it means to improve your academic tone. So academic tone of writing can be seen as an amalgamation of grammar, syntax, language, specificity, verb choice, noun choice, all of the different variables that all together contribute to a masterful command of the language and of the writing style. It's very important in research at this level to be a master of the research ideas you're presenting, but to also control the language and have autonomy over the language to bolster your own credibility as master, not only of the subject matter, but also the way in which you translate those ideas. I think I can attest to the fact that if you can't translate even the greatest ideas in the world in a way that people can understand with lower margins of misunderstanding and clarity, then it's almost useless to have the idea to begin with. So the language component is very important and it's crucial. And so let's jump right into the formula. The first step, and this should actually, let me subdivide this. The first step is to fuse smaller, simpler sentences into more complex sentence structures. As you see in your diagnostic writing packet, the best way to do this is via a semicolon use. You can think of the semicolon as a glue to combine two smaller sentences into more complex sentence structures. The general rule with a semicolon is you have to have a complete sentence or a complete idea both before and after its use. In other words, think of it as a plus sign. As long as you have a complete sentence with a subject and a predicate on both sides, you can fuse it to emphasize certain points. It really helps, especially when you're working with ideas that are very complex and have different variables. Instead of writing in smaller chunks of sentences that inhibit the natural flow and understanding of your writing, it helps to combine them all together. So in other words, much like we've done with your thesis and topic and title formats, we take your broad ideas and narrow them down through a sentence that's capable of housing all those ideas in one sentence. It's no different with this. So I recommend utilizing a semicolon to fuse smaller, simpler sentences into more complex sentences capable of housing more complex ideas. Step 1, easy peasy. All right, step 2. Pardon me for the screen size adjustment. I've got 3 screens here, and I'm having to drag things back and forth to be able to see what I'm recording here. Step 2, what's next? Upgrade your verbs to more academic centric and more research robust verbs, and also more applicable verbs. Add additional details as much as possible, and also add as much context to your sentence as possible. The idea here is to, again, fuse your smaller sentences first, find a way to make that work into a more complex sentence structure. Circle back and look at your primary verbs. 9 times out of 10, they're more conversational and informal than they should be at this level. Ask yourself, what is the best way I can translate this idea to bolster my own credibility? What verb can I use that's more applicable or relevant? So a lot of times you see the verb have, you see the very conversational prohibited word, get, got, gotten, getting, etc. There is always a verb that's going to add more substance to your content. That's the next step. Add more details, add as many descriptors into your sentence. You might think that your content is becoming more verbose and just a mouthful. That's okay at this level. The idea is to mitigate as much margin of misunderstanding as possible. So that's step 2. Step 3 is to attribute or cite with a page or paragraph number when required. So after you fuse those sentences together, after you upgrade your verbs and add descriptors and upgrade certain verbiage to more academic verbiage, then you circle back and you attribute or cite so that you are providing the relevant substantiation to any claim that you're making. And this, again, altogether is in pursuit of bolstering your credibility as a researcher and to show that you are orchestrating all of your sources in a way that is objective, factual, and in pursuit of a collective knowledge gain in the field with regards to your research topic. So let's look at an example of this. And I think this might help you. This is an excerpt from a student work. I will take the original idea and translate it for you using this 3-step method so that you can see it in action. I encourage you all to look at your own diagnostic writing packet and to see how I've done this with several sections of your own writing so that you can see it somewhat tailored more so to your unique writing style. All right, so let's look at an example. This is a student excerpt here, a random student, chosen at random. Kathy Engelbert became the commissioner of the Women's National Basketball Association in 2019. Prior to 2019, Engelbert had already stacked up an array of accomplishments and built an impressive career in the corporate sector as the CEO of Deloitte accounting firm. So let's look. Step 1, fuse smaller, simpler sentences into more complex sentence structures. So as you can see here, there's a short sentence with a relatively slightly longer but still shorter sentence. So what's the first tip? Utilize a semicolon to fuse the two together, right? So I'm going to do that at the place that's natural for that to occur. So right here between the two sentences, we know there's a complete sentence before. We know there's a complete sentence after with a subject and a predicate or verb on both sides. So we know that already works. Easy peasy. Let's go to step 2. Upgrade your verbs to more academic centric and more robust and research robust and academic centric verbs. So became. This is a very simple verb. How can we make it more relevant to the context of the sentence? How can we make it more robust? So assumed. Kathy Engelbert assumed the role of commissioner. We're just going to go piece by piece here. The Women's National Basketball Association in 2019. Just another tip, whenever you have, though it might seem like it's common knowledge, in most instances it's not, if you have an abbreviation, you spell it out upon first mention, and then you can refer back to the abbreviated version for each subsequent use.